Trudging back into the house after a mission is never fun. Seriously, can I go through one of these without just staying awake for days at a time? I'm not young as I used to be. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I was ever that young. I had to deal with another one of those frickin' mosquitoes, man. I hate it when they're causing trouble. At least this one's not going to cause any more trouble anymore at all. Immediately, I do what I normally do, kick off my boots. So just let the tootsies air a little bit, and it's so wonderful after trudging through the mud for so long. Oh, okay, let me get this file taken care of. I immediately fill everything out, but as I'm putting everything away, I try to close the drawer, and something's wrong. Why won't this thing shut? What's the hell's in the way? I'm looking over, left, right. Is it in the back? No, it's not in the back. Oh, something's stuck underneath. What the hell is this? I reach over and realize that one of the folders had popped free and had dropped down. What the hell? Oh, I have to replace that thing. It's holding it up. I pull out another green container, drop it in there, but I still have the file in my hand, and that's when I read it. I just about laugh out loud with a huge grin thinking about this one as I read the title, Baba Yaga. I continue to grin thinking about the time I met her, if you want to say that, and it was a fun trip to Europe. I mean, not the first time I've been there, of course, but it's always nice to see the sights while you're moving around, especially trying to get everything you need to have with you through all the different customs. Yeah, we have our own private planes that we can go on and all that stuff, but I keep worrying that thing's going to blow up mid-flight and they say, oh, it was an accident. Yeah, cute. I mean, it's not the first time I've known a plane to blow up and take everybody apart just to take one person down, or maybe two. So I try to charter my own. I did have a lot of trouble with the language as I went to go deal with this boogeyman, the one they worry about so much. I'm not really a linguist, so of course, having to deal with all this, I'm flipping through a book and pulling out my translator constantly. And I just had to get to the area that she was last seen and find out what in the hell was going on. Even if I don't find anything, as long as I search the area, that's good enough. The reason being is once she's seen, most of the locals, well, they say, fuck this, and they just stay away. And if I hear another one say, Alura, one more time, I'm going to lose my damn mind. As I was being dropped off, I remember the local driver thought I was absolutely nuts for just telling him to pull over so I could get out. He was absolutely petrified, kept saying in his own language, something evil in these woods. Yeah, no kidding. But I didn't say anything to him. I simply handed him a wad of cash and paid him very well. I paid him well enough for him to shut up, not ask any more questions, and to keep his mouth shut when he gets where he's going. He, of course, took the money, and just as I pulled my last bag out, he didn't even wait for the trunk to shut. He was gone. He did not want to stick around. I was like, oh, great. I got into the wood line, unpacked my bags, and put my gear on. I heard a few people talk about what to expect, but they also said, don't expect anything. So, what? Whatever. I better be ready for anything. And it was a long walk. Holy crap. Trudging through those woods. It may not be the most difficult as far as topography is going, but the foliage is a real bitch. As I walk, I keep checking the GPS to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I remember the notes I was given. Be aware of the scream. That was the biggest one. Always be wary of the scream. I didn't think about this too much until I met one of the old guys who does this sort of thing. And, well, he said he can't hear out of one ear anymore. Then he told me why, and I was just like, really? Then he said, don't worry, they don't always scream. It really depends on which one you find. This one actually made my eyes open, and I started to ask all sorts of questions. And that's when a few of them were like, oh, I wanted to play a joke on him and let him think there was only one. I swear those guys are trying to get me killed sometimes. As it turns out, the Baba Yaga is actually a full sect of witches, which means multiple covens. And some are based more in light magic, others are based in dark, but they all do very, very bad things, at least from the outside looking in. Sometimes you realize that they go and kidnap the child just to make sure the child appeared somewhere else. They do a strange thing that puts the kid in stasis, or they teach them something. Really depends on who catches them. It's kind of strange. Either way, things can be dangerous with them. It seems stupid to walk in all alone, but the thing is, I don't want to spook them. Just like any other animal, if you spook them, they get very dangerous. The majority of attacks in the woods are mainly from animals that are spooked. It's not that they're hunting, they're actually just surprised. That's normally with snakes. If you surprise them, they strike, no matter what. Even if they can't do any damage to you. It's kind of a back off, bro, type of thing. And the last thing I needed was one of these folks giving out some sort of echolocation scream so loud that both my eardrums literally explode, and then I bleed out inside my brain. No thank you, no thank you. I remember having to pick up a guy that happened to. That wasn't a Baba Yaga he was dealing with, that was a siren head, but still, yeesh, that's a harsh way to go. Though I was kind of worried about this mission because the information we have, the reason why one of these was reported, is there was disappearances of several personnel in this area, mainly children. This was usually a telltale sign, as they usually went after kids. Most kidnappers might pick one, two. No, this one got at least a half a dozen, and we didn't know why. It was odd. But I kind of figured with the topography and everything else, plus some satellite imagery, we knew where they were going to be. And there's only really one way to find them, because if they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen. Period. They're like those damn elves or the Frey. They just disappear. Our eyes can't track them. But if they want to be seen, they can show up right in front of your face. You wouldn't even know it. But there is one way, just one way to find them, and that's to look for that damn house. You would think it'd be easy to find a house in the woods, but it's not. Reason being, I don't know how they do it, but the house has legs. It looks like giant chicken legs. It's kind of weird to look at. I remember looking the first time and going, damn, it's going to take me a whole hour to eat those drumsticks. The Baba Yagas don't like you saying anything about their house. If anything, you have to be on your best behavior. I realized this very quickly as I walked around and realized I smell foul, and I don't mean I smell bad. I smell bird somewhere around. And I kept looking around, up and down, left and right. Something's here. They camouflage in so well, it wasn't until I semi-tripped and rubbed my hand against the edge of a tree that I felt the feathers. Only then did I notice the feathers on the tree. That's when I saw that the feathers, if they don't want to be seen, merge in and look just like tree trunks. I looked up and somehow I hadn't seen it as I walked up. Up there in the branches of the tree was a house. An old 1800s style home. Very well maintained. The glass was still there. There seemed to be no dirt anywhere. And I simply backed away as I was absolutely petrified. I realized what was going on. I immediately reached for my weapons, and then I remember what they said, don't be aggressive. I backed up slow, reached out, and just said, anybody home? Knock, knock. Hello? Can we talk? With that, I heard the door open slowly. But as I'm looking up, waiting for somebody's head to peek over the edge, someone came up behind me. Yes, we're home. Ah, Jesus. Please don't do that, I said as I looked, and I was expecting an old woman, but no, this one wasn't. She was, early 30s, maybe, if I had to hazard a guess. The problem is they use magic a lot, so this one I'm looking at could be a few hundred years old. They only want you to see what they want you to see, and that's important. They always try to disarm you with the looks, especially when I saw another one that couldn't have been more than 17 years old and looked innocent as all hell. They looked kind of, I don't want to say grungy with the hair, but their clothes were very well kept. It was strange, but also a very old style. I simply looked and said, "Ma'am," as I tilted my hat, and they looked at me strange. "American?" they asked me. "Yes, ma'am. I was sent to come and find you and ask you a few questions, if you don't mind, that is." They looked at each other, and me being as polite as I could seemed to actually help out a lot. It seems as though they're very, at least for this coven, very receptive when you're polite. With that, it seemed as though the legs shrunk into the house and the house lowered all the way to the ground. I slowly walked up, and then just as I was about to step on, I realized that one of them, the younger one, shot me a look, and I realized that I had mud all over my boots. I simply looked and said, "You mind if I leave my boots out here? I'd hate to track dirt into your nice clean house." With that, they both kind of looked at each other, grinned, and nodded, and then gave me that strange answer. I swear I have no idea what the hell they just said. I'm assuming they said fine because they didn't kill me right there. I simply put my boots on the deck right next to where I stepped up and continued to walk in. They weren't too happy about my boots on the deck, but I figured, you know what? If this thing stands up, I don't want them on the ground because I don't want to walk out of here in stocking feet. I simply walked in, and they gave me a cup of tea, and I asked them, as politely as possible, why they were disappearing people. As it turned out, they weren't. It was another coven, and they were very close. When I asked how close, they simply both turned and pointed towards the back window. I leaned back in my chair, and sure enough, there was another house. I simply said, "Oh, okay." As soon as I went to curse, they immediately looked at me through the eyes. I swear they are big on this. Don't ever curse in front of them, because to them it is actually a cursed word. Where do you think that goofy cartoon came up with it? They simply ushered me over to the side and yelled for the other one. And they came out. But this one, these were not so healthy. These were not so young. These were trying to intimidate with what they saw. They simply came out to the porch. I say they because all I saw was an ethereal wisp around this old crotchety woman. The partial teeth stuck up around her lip as though she's trying to show tusks or something like that. Bent over and nasty, she simply started yelling and screaming, and then she started wailing. Something so loud I had to turn my ears away, but unfortunately that turned another ear towards them, so I had to simply cut my head and say, "Oh man, please let this end soon." And with that, I simply turned to her, and I screamed, "Are you done yet?" With that, she belted out a tone so loud I thought my head was going to split open. And in that moment, I just said, "Fuck it," pulled out my revolver, and put a tracer round right through her heart. She stopped screaming. Fire is not something they enjoy. Most of these witches really don't like this. And it put her to the ground, but I knew that wasn't it. I ran up and immediately put the pistol to her forehead and said, "I know that didn't kill you. Where are they?" The other ones were absolutely aghast at this, because it seemed as though one coven was attacking another coven. You can't have that. They will actually go to war with each other, and they were actually petrified. They did not want to be outcasts and face all the other covens. And then they started yelling in their own language, and I simply had to turn while putting the pistol to the old one's forehead, said, "I can't understand you. I'm sorry. I only speak two languages, English and bad English. So please pick one of those." They simply stopped for a second, calmed themselves, and then told me how they did not want to go to war with the others. I said, "You won't. I just need to know where the innocents are." That's when the old crotchety woman smiled. I know that smile. That's a smile of defiance. At that point, I pushed the pistol farther into her forehead, and the hammer was back. She knew at any moment I could blow her brains out, but she seemed completely defiant. I said, "Fine, I'll burn your house down while you watch. Would you rather have that?" She stopped smiling. I know what that means. When it comes to many of these covens, destroying their house is destroying their source of power. The house itself is bound to them, and they are bound to it, as it provides them power, and they are what reaches out and allows the house to experiencing things beyond being, well, a house. Then she looked again and started to smile, and she actually said in perfect English, "You wouldn't dare." I simply reached behind my back, pulled out an incinerator grenade, and said, "Do you know what this is?" She immediately looked at it, and her eyes got very, very wide. "This is enough incinerator to burn both of these houses down without much problem at all. So, where are they?" She then stopped, looked at the grenade, and I could see that she was trying not to look somewhere, and then I saw her eyes flip to the second floor of the house. Without skipping a beat, using my spare fingers, I grabbed her by the throat, pushing the grenade right next to her neck, and lifting her up, pushing my pistol farther into her head, spinning her around, and putting the pistol barrel right behind the nape of her neck, one of the more tender areas for them. They don't grow back from this one. And we walked into the house. This one was dangerous. It was not a pleasant little cottage, but inside everything was decorated with bone and flesh. All the covers. It didn't matter if it was the sofa, the chair, or the light shade. It was all human skin. You could see the tattoos from the victims, all stitched together haphazardly and filled with I don't know what, and I really don't want to know. Skulls decorated all the areas, candles lit up everywhere, made of tallow and blood. I could smell the flesh and the blood burning inside the candles as we went through. It seemed as though the deeper into the house we went, the more confident she got, but she also knew it wouldn't take but a moment for me to squeeze this trigger, put it to the floor, and another second for me to pull the pin. And then no more house, which means no more power, which means she does not return. We got up towards the room, across from her bedroom, which was open. Sheets of stitched together muscle fiber were stretched across her bed. And I even saw something she used to enjoy herself, which was made out of several different arm bones, seemingly meshed together. "Woman, you're disgusting." I pushed her to the door. "Open it," I said. She opened it slowly with a creak, and what I saw inside, that made me shudder. I saw the kids, most of them, at least most of what was left. I saw a few parents or whoever had come to get them. Most of them. Most of what was left. I looked and I could see different teeth marks, different claw marks all over them. Whatever she did to them, she took her time, and it was all over the place. I could feel my feet getting stuck to the floor. Damn, I wish I had my boots on, because this is disgusting, I thought to myself. What in the ever-loving hell? With that, this Baba Yaga immediately flung me backwards with some sort of power, sending me outside the door. She then began to cackle and laugh, and she did something to summon the power. Somehow, she was able to take these dead bodies and bring out some sort of energy. I reached up and fired as many times as I could, making her flinch over and over again as the bullets went through, suddenly realizing, crap, I'm empty. Reaching for the incinerator grenade, I immediately pulled the pin, threw it inside her feet, reached over, grabbed the door, slammed it shut. And as I'm holding it with one hand, I try to reload with the other, and just as I hear her start to scream, I also hear the pop of the incendiary grenade, and I feel the heat come through the doorknob. She's inside, and she can burn. Burn, motherfucker, burn. But with that, I knew I didn't have a lot of time. I ran straight for the door, down the stairs, jumping all the way down, landing, rolling, and going out the door just as the entire place jumped on its feet and began to flip around as though a chicken with its head cut off. But now it was a giant house on chicken legs as it began its own flip and move as it burned down towards the ground, eventually burning so much that it simply fell over and began to disintegrate into nothing. As I sat there and watched, I turned towards the other two, who now was 7, all of them who had used their powers to make them fairly young and fairly pleasant to look at. I simply holstered my weapon and said, "I do apologize, ladies, for you to have to see something like that. I hope this doesn't ruin your standing with the rest of the covens." They all just looked at me for a moment, then to each other, then back to me, then back to each other, and back to me again. As they were doing this, well, my hand was slowly reaching for my other pistol, just in case I could draw both of them at the same time. Then they turned to me and smiled. And then they said something, and I was like, "Excuse me, but I'm sorry, I don't know the language." With that, they chuckled, or more directly, they giggled. And then they invited me in for dinner. I was a little nervous about this, but have you ever had European cuisine? It's a hell of a lot better than the crap we get on this side of the pond, I'll tell you that. I still remember having probably the best meal, and I would say the best night's sleep, but yeah, there wasn't much sleep. I don't know what it is about witches, but holy yeesh. If you're not ready to have your soul just about ripped out through a certain area of your body, yeah, don't do that. As we rested between, shall we say, bouts, I did get a chance to ask him a few questions. As it turned out, the one that I had just taken care of was kind of a not nice one. In fact, the only reason they kept her around in her one-person coven was the fact that she claimed that the other ones were hunted down by folks like me. Well, no, they weren't. I know this for a fact because I asked, were they actually hunted down? And if I see the girls again, I will let them know that no, we didn't do anything. But they do have their suspicions that she had simply taken out the rest of the coven to bring more power to herself. How do they know this? Only a true, dark Baba Yaga would have her walking house look like that. Only those who dabble deep into the depths of the abyss would even think about doing anything she had done. Yet the true reason that I smile right now is not because I took out probably the worst one that they have. Not that I brought more light to the world. Not that I took out the darkness. No, I smile because I think I'll go on vacation. And thinking about it, I know exactly where I want to go. Although, just in case, I'm going to bring protection. My 45's loaded with incendiary rounds and a couple of grenades. You know, just in case. Hello everybody, this is Syntax. Thank you for joining me today on this Halloween special of The Files. Before I go, I need to send out a special thank you to a few of my supporters, and those will be Chris Dixon, MTF Guard, Erica Gem, Guardian Sage, Sir, Brian Kemp, and SS Demon. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntax, ejecting.